Felix here, and welcome to this pre-market live stream. You're joined by Winston, who's looking a little aloof there in the corner. That's how he feels about the war in the Middle East. And I'm going to walk you through why that whole war soap opera there does not matter one little bit to the market today, so you really understand it. I'll also walk you through why Wall Street is underweight US stocks and what that actually means for you. And then thirdly, how HIMS has just responded to Novo Nordisk's accusations, which are pretty big. And then a warning for smart investors. I don't know, we've only got smart investors in this room, so I think you'll appreciate that information you're going to get there, which usually only Wall Street insiders see. And then we'll do a big Q&A. We'll do a big stock review. As usual, I shall share my screen with you if I can. There we are. So we're going to walk through this, the Trump, US, Israel malarkey, why Wall Street's underweight stocks and what that means for you, how HIMS is responding to Novo Nordisk, a bigly warning for smart investors, and we do a big Q&A. If you think that's going to be useful for you, those 5 items, put a 5 in the chat, and I know that it's going to give you some value. And you look like James Bond. That's probably one of the kind of things somebody said to me on one of these live streams. France is present. I must have a pick a bone with the French viewers here. I'll be getting French spam in the comments, which is really weird. Really, really very weird. So too many French people here, clearly. Now, okay, this is kind of hard to believe. And to really understand, I need to show you the screenshots because otherwise you won't really believe me that this is actually real. This is the president's truth account or X account or whatnot. And he is saying Israel was about to fly to Iran and attack it yet again after Iran has fired some missiles in the other directions. And Donald Trump writes, Israel is not going to attack Iran. All planes will turn around and head home while doing a friendly plane wave to Iran. Nobody be hurt. The ceasefire is in effect. Thank you for your attention. So that was sort of a statement, as in he like told off Israel or something. And then, well, Israel, do not drop those bombs. If you do, it's a major violation. Bring your pilots home now. Which is kind of weird because it sort of implies that, well, maybe they didn't pick up the phone and this is now the way that the US president communicates with Israel. A bit unusual. And what happened next? Well, Trump was heading for Marine One and he said this: we basically have 2 countries that have been fighting for so long and so hard that they don't know what the F they're doing. So he's definitely very, very frustrated. In Iran, Israel did strike something in Iran, and the tit for tat obviously continues. So there is no ceasefire. Now, if you thought that that would be the end of the world, I'll explain that to you in a second too, why that isn't the end of the world at all. But Trump here says something I think is actually very smart. And I'm going to get a lot of hate for that whenever I agree with one politician or the other. Everyone thinks I love everything they do. It's not really how this works. But he says, I don't want to see regime change in Iran. Regime change brings chaos, which is true. Look at Iraq, look at Libya, look at Egypt. Look, I mean, there are countless examples. Afghanistan, you know, that sort of thing. There's always chaos. But this is what matters to the market. The numbers of oil and gas tankers traveling through the Gulf been increasing the last 3 days, so nobody cares. Because the oil and the gas is flowing, this is not really relevant for anybody. Plus, I look like Andy Warhol. Must be the haircut today. Matthew McConaughey. There's a lot of quite nice comparisons today. So yeah, I quite like that. The Sicilians are here. Now I am worried. So even if oil production drops in the Gulf, this oil production goes to where? It does not go to the US. Very little of it goes to Europe. Most of it goes to Asia. So the stock market doesn't really care because the US stock market is very little Asia exposure. That's just the reality of the market. Market does not care about this war any longer. But the following thing is big. And by the way, if you're thinking, well, what are my stocks am I therefore going to buy? And obviously, you're going to be thinking about that. We're going to run through some of those. My answer is the same every single day of the year. There's a simple set of rules that Wall Street's been using for 50 plus years. You can learn those rules in about 15 minutes. And you will then never, ever, ever have to ask me or anybody else, What about this stock? What about HIMS today? What about Uber? What about the Tesla rally? Should I buy it? Should I sell it? Those natural questions that you have, which are good because it shows you have an inquisitive nature and you're wondering like what the heck to do, but you can actually get an answer to that, a very simple answer. And I give you that answer courtesy of Winston there in the corner. He really is looking a bit, Tommy was a bit upset today. I think that's why he's looking like that. There he is. You can get access to that for free at felixfriends.org/get-free. And literally all you got to do is you got to click on the link that I put into the live chat here. You don't even need to type. And then you just leave this video and you watch something better, which is what that is. So I'd love it if our concurrent viewers are dropping from about 2,500 to, say 2. And all of you went over there and learned that. I would be very, very, very happy. So go and check that out. Now, Klaus Kinsky. What does Klaus Kinsky look like? I don't know what he looks like. So again, I'll just take it as a compliment, you see. I'm generously minded. This here is bigly information. And this actually comes, credit where credit's due, Fundstrat put this out. Now, of course, it is just it's sort of a silly thing, isn't it? Exclusive use of Fundstrat clients only. Well, it's from Bank of America's Global Fund Manager Survey. It's probably for Bank of America clients only. But anyway, we just spread the word here. So it was out there on social media. So it is fair use at this point. But an interesting thing on this chart is that fund managers, the Muppets who lose you money most of the time, those guys in their silly pinstriped suits, those guys are currently massively underweight the US, the United States, the biggest stock market in the world, the most important economy in the world, the place where all innovation happens. They're short, essentially, or underweight at least, the US. So what do you think is going to happen in the second half of the year when these same numbnut fund managers realize that the US stock market is actually outperforming everywhere else and that the US is getting very, very big tax cuts, which will benefit very large US stocks the most. And therefore, those stocks are going to go up significantly more. What do you think those numbnuts are going to do? Well, they're going to chase, aren't they? And they're going to move the money back into the US. So, yeah, it's just one of those. It just makes no sense. Honestly, fund managers, by and large, throw them off a cliff, the world will be a better place. Not literally, obviously, right? I need to put that disclaimer there for the kind of people who need a disclaimer. Coffee you just ordered might be hot. It might burn you if you pour it over yourself. I mean, really. I'm talking to you, Americans. It's true. It's just the lawyers have taken over your country. That's who I would be deporting lawyers. Just like basically law school, bus to the border, send them all to Mexico. That's what I say. Now we've offended all the lawyers, so that's always a good idea, isn't it? Now, great to make lots of money. Absolutely. This here is the response. This is item number 3, and then we're going to look at the big warning for smart investors here. And I'm disappointed in you because the view count just keeps going up. I told you all to leave and go to felixfriends.org/get-free to watch something better than this, but apparently nobody pays any attention to me. So this is the complaint from Novo. And they said that HIMS has failed to adhere to the law, that they are disseminating deceptive marketing that puts patient safety at risk, engage in illegal sham compounding that jeopardizes the health of Americans, and that the ingredients in the knockoff drugs sold by these people are made by foreign suppliers in China, and that US patients should not be exposed to knockoff drugs made with unsafe and illicit foreign ingredients. That's pretty tough stuff. I don't know if legal read through that, because if this isn't true, then that's a lawsuit waiting to happen. Any lawyers on the chat here? There must be some, right? We have to have our morning shot of gag juice. Absolutely. I just had mine, which is the most important thing, of course. Now, here is Andrew, CEO and founder of HIMS. And he says, we're disappointed in you. He says, the Novo Nordisk commercial team has increasingly pressured us to control clinical standards and steer patients to Wegovy, regardless of whether it is clinically best for patients. We refuse to be strong-armed. We shall fight them on the beaches. We shall, something like that. We take our role in protecting the ability of our providers and patients to control treatment decisions extremely seriously. We will not compromise the integrity of our platforms to appease a third party or anybody else. We continue to offer access to a range of treatments, blah, 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 blah. Pretty strong answer. He's obviously pissed, right? You'd be too if somebody called you a sham compounder. So that's that. Now, what's the stock doing on that news? Let's have a look. Fear index has dropped to 18, by the way, because there is no ceasefire. It's a funny old world we live in, isn't it? HIMS, pre-market, yeah, it's sort of a rebound for ants. We're up from 42 to we're up 36 cents from yesterday. So the market not particularly impressed by this tit for tat. So what's the warning for you guys out there? Defamation. Bartholomew for a cat name. I thought about that, actually. I think Bartholomew would be a great name for a golden retriever. That's really what Winston's lobbying for. There's Andy Winston. There is Winston. He looks a bit under the weather, doesn't he? We just played with him. He was actually quite all right. I think he's a little under the weather. He probably ate something. He eats things like pig poop and all sorts, and then upsets his stomach sometimes. Not pig, monkeys and that sort of thing. We have all sorts of things here. This is from our lovies at Goldman Sachs. There's even no and in there, Goldman Sachs. They've tightened the belts. They got rid of the and. They've sold them, deported them. And they're saying that pension funds are modeled to sell 19 billion of US stocks by the month end, which is it's quite a lot. It's quite a lot. So it's one of the biggest month-end sales of stocks. Now, why the heck would pension funds sell a winning market? Because pension funds are a terrible way to invest unless there's a huge, huge, huge tax advantage. So again, I draw my pie. What am I about to say? Pension funds in the sort of classical sense have, say, a 40% bond allocation and a 60% stock allocation. It's probably a little bit more complicated than that, but let's keep it simple for our sakes. I can't even spell buy, right? So I wrote bunny with one N. So I probably better keep it simple. Now, the stock market has recovered quite a bit. So they probably now own, say, 65% of their portfolio in stocks and only 35% of their portfolio in bonds. So what do they therefore have to do? They sell the stocks and they buy some bonds. So every time the market goes up, these muppets sell, therefore ensuring maximum underperformance. It's like saying, oh, my stock's up 20%. Let's sell it. You're like, why? Because it's up 20%. Like, yeah, but what if it goes up to 200%? You know, case in point, I'll give you one here. Hello, Albert. Here is Albert. He's somebody who does not like to sell early. Don't you, Albert? He's a real maximize profit sort of a guy. So if I open the chart for you, say on, you know, one of the things I wish I hadn't sold. But no, it followed my rules, so I'm happy. He says through gritted teeth. This one here, Ava, it went up, you know, 20%, 30%, 40%, 50, 60, 70, 80. My stop kicked in here because it dropped off a little bit. It had actually gone up 140%, and then my stop kicked in here at 80. And right now, it is up about 270% or so. So the pension funds would have sold that down here. Idiotic, isn't it? But, you know, keeps everybody poor, and that probably makes somebody happy. I don't know, not me, not Albert. So here is the warning number 2. So the warning there is simply that there will be a 19 billion stock sell-off at the end of this month. It's programmed in. Can't do anything about it. And then, Albert, don't press the enter button. Bad things happen when you do that. And then secondly, as Albert very astutely just pointed out, that the buyback window is closing. The door is closing. And what does it mean? 70% of the S&P 500 stocks are now on blackout. By the end of this week, it'll be a rather more bigly 85%. Maybe Albert's sitting on the pen. Handy, Albert. So by the end of this week, it'll be 85% of companies are no longer buying their own stocks. And that's because they're not permitted to, because the next earnings season is upon us. Isn't that right, Albert? Yes. I think he understands more of this than I do, don't you think? I think so. Slightly concerning. I think all portfolio management will be handed over to Albert from now on. So that means we were getting about 6 billion a day or so in buybacks, and that's vanishing basically, right? What a strong, healthy-looking cat he really is. He is an exceptionally strong cat. I mean, we got him off the street, so he's, good genes, I'd say, that one. He's just like, he's the size of a dog, really. But he's very sweet. The no buybacks thing will last, that'll last into all of July, basically. All of July. And it should then come back off in August, if I'm not mistaken. I haven't got the exact chart for that, but it'll be blackout. I mean, this here says 5th of August, so it'll probably be a little bit longer than that. What makes the market climb if these two factors happen? Well, yeah, we've removed the biggest buyer. Good news. Peace on earth, that sort of thing. Well, or just getting generally excited. Money printing will help. Good earnings would obviously help. Just money maybe pouring in a little bit from the bond markets. There's a lot of money sitting on the sidelines in money markets. So there is money. It's not that there isn't any money, but this is something that's quite important. Has that been useful for you? Has that been useful for you? Put a U in the chat if that's been useful for you. Significance of no buyback, says Emily. Okay, so let me explain that. The biggest buyers, and I mention it so often, I sometimes assume people know, the biggest single buyer of stocks, excuse my handwriting, are buybacks. So buybacks are basically companies buying their own stock. So if you are Apple, you have a buyback program. Say you are PayPal, you're buying back about 8% of all your stocks every single year. So they have these very large stock buybacks, and that's a way of returning money to shareholders. It's a bit more tax friendly than paying dividends, because that's usually taxed at a higher rate. Whereas buybacks just mean, well, say there are, how do we best depict this? So say there are 10 shareholders. Okay, let's keep it simple. And those 10 shareholders own 100 shares. That's all the shares there are, right? So now the company comes in, and the company buys 20 shares and then destroys them. That's essentially what they do. It's sort of the opposite of inflation. So now we no longer have 100 shares, we have 80 shares, right? So we move to 80 shares. Now, if your 100 shares were, say, worth $1 each, and now you only have 80 shares, any mathematicians on the channel here who can work that out, what happens? Well, your shares are now worth more, right? 20% or something like that more. So obviously I can't do the maths. I'm a former banker. We don't do that sort of thing. It's too complicated. But you get the idea that, well, less shares means you now own a bigger piece of the pie, right? That's sort of the idea. Scott says more. Yeah, that was sort of where my maths ended too. How about buying a haircut? No, that's a little rude, because I actually had a haircut today. And one of my instructions to my lovely hairdresser is always make sure that I look exactly the same when I walk out of here than when I came in, which is usually what I aim for. And I think she did a rather good job there, didn't she? So 1.25. I think that sounds about right, my friend. That sounds about right. So it's now at $1.25 each. So you've basically received. Thank you there, Mark. Smart man, Mark's World. You've received 25 cents. essentially, right? So that's what buybacks do. Less shares, higher share prices. It's a good thing for shareholders. Now, let's have a quick look at pre-market. Pre-market looks extraordinarily beautiful, except if you are purely in oil stocks, which is why stops on oil stocks are always a good idea. Everything is up, basically. Everything is up. Meta and Microsoft and Google and Apple and Nvidia and Amazon and AVGO and Palantir, of course, and Oracle and Tesla up 2%. That party seems to be getting started. That looks pretty good, actually, doesn't it? So that little break out there yesterday, we're at the dotted line here, the very, very top end. Where are our institutions? Our institutions here, and the software I'm using is the one down below. There is now a QR code. So you can literally scan that and you can get the app straight away. Both on mobile, iOS, on Google, even on iPads, everything. And there's obviously also a web version, which is what I'm using here. So that looks pretty good. Looks very good. Pretty good volume there too. No real resistance on the way up. And if you look at the dark pools from yesterday, you can also see that live when the market opens, but we still have 7 minutes and 36 seconds there to start. So let's have a look at Tesla yesterday. Bullish. 103 million in call options bought yesterday. Some quite bigly buyers there of calls, $300 calls yesterday. $14 million. It's not exactly chump change, is it? So yeah, looks pretty good. And the theory here is, and I know there are people who have strong feelings about Tesla, which is always a little odd. Try not to have strong feelings about stocks. It's just an instrument to make you money. A Waymo with its 900 cameras, 16 radars, 45 lidars, and 15 safety people in the boot trunk, as you call it, they cost about $200,000. That's the rumor. A Tesla that is self-driving without all the bells and whistles, because you don't really need them, according to Tesla, is about $38,000. Now, you can work out, therefore, it'll be cheaper to use a Tesla robotaxi than a Waymo, much, much cheaper. Now, Google, of course, has deep pockets, so they can run Waymo at a loss for a long period of time, which is clearly what they're doing right now. But Tesla's cost price would be very similar to what a human-driven Uber would be right now. So it would just take a little bit of more volume there for Tesla to be able to do that at a pretty decent profit, I would argue. So Tesla is nearly immune to the rules. And you have a point. I used to have a rule not to trade Tesla, actually. It was one of my banned stocks for quite a long period of time. For that very reason, that it's very susceptible to tweets. Can we estimate the party will be over till August? Typically, the seasonality for June and July isn't super brilliant in post-presidential election years. But who knows? Something bigly could happen and the whole thing could change. So the summer is usually quite good overall. But yeah, June, July tend to be a little bit flat. But and Waymo's Jaguars. Yes, allegedly. Buongiorno. Trade Vision is amazing, very simple and very informative. I really appreciate that, my friend. And you have no idea about the very, very cool things that are coming out very shortly. Very, very excited about that. We also have a meeting, sort of 3 top people at Trade Vision, which is a very elite group in a short few weeks in London. So I'm looking forward to that as well. But no, we got some really, really, really cool stuff coming up here for all you Trade Vision users. If you're not one already, you know what to do. Grab yourself a free trial while it's this cheap, because it's insanely cheap. Can you talk about Tesla? Okay, we just did that. Zim. Not a lot of movement there on Zim. It's basically still in the doghouse. But yeah, sort of at the lower end, it's sort of testing its support here at 16.16 yesterday. That was a bit it. So yeah, not looking brilliant. Zim would like a longer wall. They'd like Houthis. Zim basically likes Houthis. It's one of those, very ethical investments. Okay, market opens in 3 minutes. Let's have a quick look at some of the big boys out there, like NVIDIA. That is looking good. That looks like it might be a gap up here this morning. That looks pretty good, right? Might be at the top end of that trading zone range there. What else have we got? Anything big out there that we should be looking at? Anything that I've forgotten about? Maybe a Palantir. That is also looking pretty good, trading at $141. Trying to be nice if we break out of that 143 zone, but it's looking pretty good already. Naira, thanks for the kind comments there. What about Rocket Lab? What did we say? Breakout above 30, right? It's at 32.99. Looks pretty good. Pre-market, it's even higher than yesterday's high. Bigly volume. So far, we're quite pleased with ourselves on this one. IBM keeps getting mentioned there. That's a beautiful one. Yeah, that's a very beautiful one. And that breakout was somewhere here, sort of early June. Not a lot of volume, but it looks good. Today, it looks even better. So congrats to anybody who owns IBM. ARM, we've been saying that for a little while. It looks very, very good. The only slight fly in the ointment there, and this is one of the reasons I love Trade Vision, that red line there called RES, for resistance line, where the market makers pee on the party. We're slightly above that. So it'll be interesting to see whether the market makers sell sufficiently to bring us below that, or whether we're actually going to punch through that. What about EL, Estee and Lauder? That looks like the second gap up in a row. One gap up. That will be a second gap up here. So that looks very good too. So that party seems to continue. Have to hear the kitties in the background. They are rather noisy sometimes. Yes, they have their moment. This is one of the mad hours of the day. So far. Okay, let's have a look at that. 2 minutes to the market opens. That is also a gap up. That looks good, right? And yesterday was actually very, very good. So why was yesterday so good? Because we retested our breakout. And that's actually a good thing. So let me show you that candle there yesterday. So that's the candle, right? From yesterday. Long tail, which means we dropped all the way down there, right? To the bottom of that. And then we pulled all the way back up and we closed up there. That was the close. That was the low. And right now, right here, right now, we're trading there, which would be a gap up at 1573, would continue the bullish party, which is why SoFi was on our buy list for the week. Mando, appreciate you. Thank you. What else have we got? The market opens in a minute. Cat, how many do you want? Cat, I've got 7 in this studio. So yeah, also looking good. Breaking out very nicely here. Looks good. Looks very good. Yeah, liking it. Obviously, none of those are up there. For buy recommendations, just my humble opinion. That's really it. Esther, want to get in and out of, Wealth Destroyer long term. David, I think everything is there to get in and out of, in terms of stocks at least, because nothing is forever in the stock market world. Nothing goes up forever. So always have a stop on absolutely everything. That would be my actual advice. Nearly bell time indeed. Let me see if we are set up for that. Are we set up for bell time? No, we're not. Oh my God, the pressure. What are we going to do? It is officially bell time. Mind your ears. That never gets old, at least not for me. Winston doesn't seem particularly impressed by it. Do you, Winston? Look at his face. Like, what did you do that for? I was asleep. Don't make such a racket. Sorry, Winston. We are sorry. We're sorry. Let's say we don't do it again, but we'll probably do it again tomorrow, Winston. He's a fairly forgiving soul. So that's good. Life without cats is possible, but pointless. Yes, I quite agree. I'd say the same thing about golden retrievers. It's a beautiful morning. What can we do about stocks dropping in the after hours? Seems like event always seems to happen after hours, Chris. Make your position sizes smaller, and that way you will no longer care. That's the answer to that. The same answer I gave yesterday. AMD, no longer advanced money destroyer, but now advanced money. What's a positive word with D? I can't think of one, but it looks good. Looks very good. Look at that. Look at that. Look at that trend line. That's a trend and a half, isn't it? Look at that trend line. It's a thing of beauty. You can make it brighter. So it looks beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Volume pretty strong. It's just yeah, very, very nice recovery there for AMD. Very happy to see it. Tanana, you appreciate your love for animals. They are very sweet. I don't know, where did Albert go? I was a bit worried when I can't see one of them. The kittens are safely, look, you know what Albert can do? He can open doors. He jumps on the door handle and can open the door. And then everybody comes out. I mean, look, well, how did you do that? So we have to lock them in. Advanced money distributor. I like that. Yes, I like that. Maverick, you have a gold retriever and 2 cats. That's probably quite a healthy number. I've gone a little overboard with the whole cat thing. Zim is dropping. Yes, it is. It's dropping below the 50-day moving average line, which is not pretty. Zim does not appreciate the end of hostilities. This was always a war play, and for some odd reason, people seem to be thinking the war is over. I don't think it is, actually, but that's a whole nother conversation for another day. What else we got there? OSCR. That's pulling back. Most stocks do. That's what I always say. Stocks break out, right? And then they pull back. We call it a second chance once they start moving up again. It doesn't have to, but a lot of the time they do actually do that. What else have we got? BBAI. That is starting to look quite good. Could still be, I mean, you could be nice to take out the sort of 450, but it's getting there, and the volume is certainly piling up pretty strongly there. Archer, doing nothing at all, which isn't a bad thing. It's better than it dropping terribly. AIVA, that one continues to make people retired, doesn't it? We're now, how much are you guys up by now? 258% in 34 trading days. That's pretty good, isn't it? And it's things like that, well, make you a lot of money, but also pay for all your stops that get stopped out. Very, 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 very easily. Like one of those will probably pay for all your stops for, half a year or something. So all you need is one more winner, which shouldn't be too hard. What else have we got out there? Trying to repeat tickers too often with one username because I will then ignore you because it's a bit spammy. Celsius is finally doing what we said it would do, and it is finally breaking out. If you want to understand how and why that happens, and there is only one thing and one thing only for it, which is understanding why these lines matter. And then look at that. We broke out above it. We bounced off the support. Second chance. We're doing it again. Looks very, very good. That doesn't mean you should go out and buy it, but yeah, it looks very, very good. So we said buy above 38, 35. That was a note for myself, not for you, in which case you would be up fairly bigly by now. So where are you going to learn that? No, not there, actually. You're going to learn that here. That's it. felixfriends.org/get-free. I'll put the link in the chat for you one more time for anybody who can't type. What about PayPal? Yeah, almost is nowhere, isn't it? Almost it's a bit like someday. Someday is never. Almost is never. So yeah, it's a little gap up, which is positive, 1.5% up. So not a huge one, but it needs to, in my humble opinion, take out these sort of $75 highs really to kind of start changing this the trajectory. Would you get back into Ava? I would not in this particular moment because it feels extended. I think the point to do that would have been here, where we exceeded the previous high. I think that would have been the moment to do that. Although volume looks good, I mean, you know, good luck to you if you want to do that. But for my rules, I wouldn't buy something that is that far extended in terms of how far that is above the 50-day moving average line. That's like, how far is that above the 50-day moving average line? Like 80, 90% or something above it. So it's pretty extended, but it might well continue. I mean, who knows? But you know, 250% is usually pretty good. So if you're in that, I'd set a stop, as always. SRFM, Surf Air Mobility, doing nothing. Still a falling knife despite that 15% gap up. You say that's a Palantir buy? Okay, I'll have to take your word for that. I'm sure you're right. Yeah, it's a little early. It's below everything. So for me, it's a no, but that doesn't mean it won't be one. So I shall take a screenshot and I shall ferret around a little bit on that one to see if that's something that might be worth looking into a little bit later. So there we are. Hood's breaking out. Market is, everything is just going up. Everything is going, but everything was going up when we had a war. Everything is going up when we don't have a war. It's just like any reason basically to go up, which is good. Advanced money driver. Yeah, I quite like that. I quite like that too. HIMS, a little recovery there, 4%. But how much do you need to recover? Quick question. When you drop 34%, how big does your recovery have to be? Any guesses? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Put it in the chat and I'll give it away. Trying to make this dramatic. You have to go back up 53%. So it needs a little bit more than the 4% it's doing right now. But yeah, it's a good start. Mark, your dog went to the door. He normally answers the doorbell, does he? So sorry to him. Give him a bit of a stroke. Zeta is following the rules. You know, everything follows the rules, actually. It's a little bit of a risky one, though, below the 150 to buy it there. But yeah, it is. I see what you're talking about there with that. That's what you're looking at, right? Sorry, a little bit higher. That would be sort of, if I could draw a straight line, that would be your kind of entry. Huge volume. Institutions are clearly jumping all over this. That's why it gapped up like that. So yeah, it looks interesting, but it was definitely a little bit more like a trader setup, I'd say, than an investor setup for sure. Alrighty, ho, my friends. I think we're probably good there. Anybody who's got questions on any stock whatsoever, all you got to do is go and watch the masterclass. And if you do that, you will actually know the answers. You will know when you buy it, you know when you want to sell it, you know how to automate the bloody thing, and you will never have to ask another question again. So my hope and my goal is that everybody learns those rules, because they're not my rules, they're Wall Street's rules. They're the rules of successful traders for like 50 years. And a lot of those guys are doing very well. They're very nicely retired. And I think that's what everybody deserves, isn't it? Go and enjoy yourself. So go over to felixprehn.com/get free if you haven't done so already. And I wish you a beautiful rest of the day.